Hi, I'm Jet Kuso. Have you ever wondered what happens when two Bakugan love each other very much? I know I haven't, but I guess Spin Master is here to answer that question anyway. Without further ado, what are Fusion Bakugan? Bakugan Fusion Force is the second Bakugan card expansion for Bakugan Season 2 Armored Alliance. The first expansion set this year, Armored Elite, saw the introduction of Bakugear toys and Bakugear cards, a new toy gimmick, and a new card type. If you want to know about Bakugear, click the card up in the corner or find the link in the description to watch my video, What are Bakugear? Fusion Force is similar to Armored Elite in that we again have a new toy gimmick plus a new game mechanic. I'll talk about toys first, but don't go away because I will be talking gameplay later in the video. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Fusion Bakugan are the combined form of two existing Bakugan. This is not the first time this brand has mashed two Bakugan together, actually. If you watch my video about Combiner Bakugan, you'll know that older Bakugan toy lines did actually have quote-unquote fusion mechanics. Titanium Surge had Baku Mutant, in which the tops and bottoms of Bakugan could be swapped around. Meanwhile, Bakutech in Japan had the Bind system, in which every Bakugan split into two hemispheres to be swapped and combined at will. Fusion Bakugan aren't that, and to be honest, I'm really happy about it. Combiner Bakugan are fun, but in the Bakugan Pro TCG, it would be really hard to fit into the game. In fact, Fusion Bakugan toys aren't actually combiners at all. Every Fusion Bakugan is a single Bakugan ball, but the designs are based on the combined forms of two different Bakugan monsters.
Downgrade.
Back when Bakugan Fusion toys were first shown at Toy Fair in early 2020, they looked like ugly Sons of Halcors. But those were hand-painted prototypes, and as we've seen time and time again, you never know until you see them for real. I forgot to put my wristband on!
Are you gonna start over?
No. Shisha! And as we've seen time and time again, you never know until you see them for real. And holy cow, some of the Fusion Bakugan are just gorgeous! For one, it's giving us some designs that are outlandish and weird and wild, and it's really fun to see creatures mashed up in weird ways. And it's refreshing after Season 1, which was mostly just real-life animals. I applaud Fusion Bakugan for bringing back characters from Season 1 of the reboot. In Legacy Bakugan series, Bakugan were usually just used up and discarded between seasons with very few exceptions. Hundreds of Bakugan only ever got one toy made out of them, and although that did result in a really large catalog of monsters, we didn't really get the Pokemon effect, where many favorite classic creatures are revisited and given new forms over and over and over again. It's a great idea to bring back monsters every once in a while because people really do get attached to their favorite Bakugan. I mean, come on, just look at Fangzor X Mantanoid, two of my favorite Bakugan for Battle Planet, and here they are, sharing one painful to fly-like body together. Sure, they may want the suffering to end quickly, but look at them, they're so cute! Who's a good Fangtanoid? You are. Fusion Bakugan may share one body, but what they don't share is one faction. That's a segue. One of the first things you'll notice on the toys is how much their color schemes deviate from the Bakugan that we're used to. Different shades of green, blue, red, and gold, and so on cover these Bakugan in seemingly random combinations. Gone are the unified color schemes we're used to, but not without good reason. Bakugan fusions are dual faction. Sort of. The toys are dual faction. How convenient that they added faction symbols to the Bakugan for Season 2, Pyrus Darkus, Darkus Aurelus, Ventus Aquus. No combination appears to be off the table. But Jet Kuso, when I look at the character card that came with my Bakugan, it looks like it's only one faction. This character card for Halcor Ramparian is clearly a Pyrus card, but the Bakugan says it's Darkus and Pyrus. What's going on? You idiot. You clearly don't know about double-sided character cards! Okay, check this out. Every character card for Fusion Bakugan has a new feature and a new mechanic that's unlike anything we've seen before. In fact, No. Every single Fusion character card is double-sided, meaning if you simply flip your CC over, you'll see a spectacular sight.
Boom, 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 boom.
Gorgeous, full art all the way to the edges of the cards. Lately, Bakugan have been knocking it out of the park with card art. These fused card backs have big promo card energy, and they come standard with every new Gon for the exact same price. This extra card face does raise a lot of questions, and questions about how fusions work in general, which I like to answer in a segment I call Answering Questions About the Extra Card Face and How Fusions Work in General. Alright, you got your fused side and your normal unfused side. When you're building your deck, the unfused side is what you use to decide what cards you can use in your deck. You can still only use 3 factions in your deck, and as long as your Bakugan isn't fused, it counts as one faction and plays as normal. The gameplay for these things is intuitive and simple as heck. On the front face for each fusion CC, you'll see a little F. That's the fusion symbol. Right before that, you'll see a number and an energy symbol. This number is your energy cost to fuse. All you have to do is pay that energy cost during a turn and flip over your CC and boom, you fused! For the rest of the game, unless your Bakugan gets defused by a card or other effect, it remains fused every time you roll it out. Most fusions are activated abilities, the cost of which can be paid at any time you could normally play cards. However, some fusions are triggered by landing on a particular core, and these actually seem like some of the more promising fusions we've seen so far. And then there's the batch. To the best of my understanding, fusions enter the batch when you pay the cost or trigger the fusion. So if I have priority and I fuse my Bakugan, the other player has a chance to respond to that by either playing cards on top of the batch or fusing their Bakugan first. I don't think this has any real gameplay effect right now, but eventually it might. Fusing a Bakugan does not count as playing a card, so you can't super fuel into a fusion, and a fusion wouldn't enable Tuskguard or other similar cards. The first draft of the script actually had way more maybes and ifs and stuff in there, but I had this big conversation with Toolbox24, and he reached out to Gary, one of the game designers, for me. So credit to Brawler Cafe and Toolbox24 for basically all of this ruling information. Here's a few examples of how a turn with fusions could go in the TCG. Start of turn. After both players have chosen, ooh, that's a fun new word. After both players have chosen their Bakugan, you can pay the energy cost right away to fuse your Bakugan before you roll, resulting in a higher B power right away. But that might limit your strategic options in battle if something unexpected happens and you don't have any energy left. Instead, you could fuse your Bakugan in the middle of the brawl phase. You both stood your Bakugan and your B power just isn't high enough? Try fusing!
Boom, boom.
After the brawl phase, at the end of the turn, after all cards have been played, damage has been taken, and you lose violently because of your puny unfused Bakugan, you can use all of the leftover energy you have from the wacky flips you aren't running to fuse one of your Bakugan. Presumably any of your Bakugan. Just pay that energy and flip your CC over. Now you're almost not mediocre. Let's get into some of the gameplay pros and cons. Opinion time! In theory, Fusion Bakugans totally outclass Evo cards. Rather than filling up your deck with 9 Evos, which is something the competitive community has basically stopped doing anyway, you just have Evos built right into your Bakugan. You don't have to draw anything, and you don't have to worry about milling any of your Evos, which, honestly, I really like. There's hardly any worse feeling in Bakugan than milling all of your Evos early game and knowing you have no chance of winning anymore because your late game is dead at the beginning. There's hardly any worse feeling than when you open a booster pack and pull 3 or 4 or 5 Evos that you know you're never going to use. Or you're opening older boosters and the Evos that you pull don't correlate to any Bakugan that you can still buy in stores. Evos were a great idea in theory, but in practice, they cause a lot of problems for the overall experience. The logistics of Evos are kind of ridiculous. Just compare Infinity Dragonoid to Maximus Dragonoid from last year. Maximus Dragonoid comes with an exclusive Bakugan, and an exclusive Evo to go with it. 1 Evo. A single card, unless you bought the international multi-language version of the set. A single card does not make for a playable set, and as a result, a lot of people had to buy 3 Maximus Dragonoid sets in order to play the Bakugan it came with. That might seem nice for Spin Master because they're making more sales, but it's ridiculous and it doesn't do any good for the consumer. I don't even think it was on purpose, I think that just happens to be how it worked out. Meanwhile, Dragon Blade Infinity comes with 1 Bakugan, 3 new Bakugear cards, and a CC with a fusion side. Boom! Problem solved. Your product is instantly playable in the TCG as soon as you buy it, and as a result, everyone feels way happier with their purchase. This effect, in theory, trickles down to all Fusion Bakugan. Every toy comes with everything you need to use that Bakugan in the TCG, and that simplifies everything about distribution for the toys and Bakugan Pro. And don't bring up Epic CCs in the comments. That's a different thing, and we can have that conversation, but not right now. So needless to say, I would be more than happy with Fusions basically permanently replacing Evos as a card mechanic. I don't think they'll be any less fun than Evos, because it takes out all of the stress involved in them with the same satisfaction of making your Bakugan stronger at will. Even for non-Fusion Bakugan in the future, I would really like to see the alternate card backs just take the place of Evo cards. It's a better mechanic. But there is a big downside to fusions in practice rather than in theory, because in practice, they aren't good. Stats-wise, most Fusion Bakugan are not strong enough to be competitive in the current metagame. Many of the fusion sides are decent, but most of the unfused base forms are criminally weak compared to some of the more strong Bakugan that we have currently. And often the ones that do have strong fusions are so expensive that they're only going to be good late game, and right now Bakugan is quick. Some of the only fusions that are viable are those with a very low energy cost to fuse, and most of the time those don't have very strong fused sides. The current metagame is fast, with decks like Brawler Cafe's Sync that barely need any energy to get incredibly high numbers, and Bakugan like Jim that start at 1500 B power. Your early game will get crushed so brutally that you're not gonna be able to recover even once you fuse. With that said, there is one more aspect that makes fusions a bit more balanced: fusion cores. If you see the little F symbol on the face of a Baku core, that means the Bakugan only gets that extra bonus if it is fused. These Baku cores typically have buck wild stronger bonuses, such as a +8 damage Fire Fist and this +800 Magic Shield. So if you get your Bakugan fused soon enough, and you are running the right cores in your deck, that pushes the fusion power curve way higher than most people are seeing it as currently. I'm not saying it's competitive, but I think it's worth looking into. I did, and I was delighted by the results. For casual play, fun games, pet decks, and experimenting, fusions are super fun. They make more room for fun do-stuff cards in your deck, and you never have to feel the pain of an Evo slipping by like tears in the rain. Unless you're running a Diamond Fusion Evo, no! What? That just about covers everything. All things considered, I like fusions. The color schemes are really cool, the gameplay possibilities make some much needed advancements, and they mean the return of some favorite Gons from Season 1. Ultimately, the point of Bakugan is to have fun. Some of them may look clunky, but I think they're funky. And everyone knows you can't spell funky without funk. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you get a notification every time I post a new video. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JetKuso, and thank you so much to VeronOC, The One Only Prime, and SheVidus for supporting my channel on Patreon. You too can help support my content at patreon.com/JetKuso. Helps me make my stuff, and I appreciate it a ton. Also, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you prefer Evos or Fusions? This is JetKuso, and I'll see you next time.